Hey, how y'all folks doing? I'm glad you come and see me today. This is a cable company here, and we're doing my NASA. Okay, I'm just going through some of it. Some of the pictures. I promised everybody I would show y'all some of these vehicles that we got. Um, this is at the Patterson Air Force Base in Florida. Um, I got this right here. This is a fact sheet. Okay, see a fact sheet. You hear me talking about fact sheets and all that. This is what I mean when I say, well, I got a fact sheet. I didn't realize it. I should have probably told people. I thought everybody knew what a fact sheet was, but I didn't. I'm sure. I guess I don't know. Maybe you just never heard it called that or something. I don't know. But this is not. It's not my philosophy. This is before I was born. Okay. Mercury spacecraft orbital flight plan, the worldwide range facilities. 1. Definition. The flight path of the Mercury spacecraft has created a need for fixed positions on Earth to observe its traverse. These land-based and shipboard facilities are selected precisely located points to monitor the orbit's light. Oh, I didn't know that. These installations include radar to track the orbital path, radio communications direct with the asteroid, telemetry stations to determine in-flight spacecraft performance, including physical conditions of the astronaut and the backup command equipment to control the re-entry sequence if desired. It is the responsibility of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration officials to make key decisions during flight. Oh yeah, I want you to look at how small those words are. You get up here at 54 years old, I can't see. I gotta get me some new glasses or something. Get my eyeball. Let me get my eyeball out. And say anything. I can't see. Maybe that's the time of day. Number 2, the mission, the monitor and support of the Mercury spacecraft and its occupants from liftoff through orbit to impact and recovery is the mission of the Mercury Worldwide Range Facilities. And number 3, support the internal programmer in the Atlas Bookler guides the Mercury spacecraft into the first Earth orbit at approximately 100 miles altitude and a speed of 17,500 miles per hour. The functions from this point are as follows. A. First orbit. 1. Control passes from Cape Canaveral complex to the Bermuda station. Mission can be aborted as condition warned. Bermuda makes go, no, go recommendation if decision is not made by Mercury Control Center at Cape Canaveral. 2. Bermuda radar track, voice and telemetry contact maintained. 3. Spacecraft establishes voice and telemetry contact with Atlantic Ship Station. 4. Canary Islands acquires craft on radar and tracks, maintaining telemetry and voice contact. 5. Spacecraft passes successfully into range of stations at Cano, Niagara, Sandbar, and the Indian Ocean ship, maintaining voice communication and telemetry contact. And Australian site at Muches receives acquisition message. Radar track spacecraft Telemeter data continues to flow to Mercury Control Center via Goddard Space Flight Center, and voice communications with spacecraft are maintained. 7. Woomera, Australia. The site picks up spacecraft on radar and continues voice communication and telemetering. 8. Spacecraft passes into monitoring range and voice communication contact of Canton Island Station. 9. Next, was that Gomas, Mexico, then California, acquire craft and make voice and telemetry contact. 10. Next, White Sands, New Mexico, establish radar and telemetry contact. 11. Then, spacecraft travels within range of radar, telemetry, and voice communication of Corpus Christi, Texas. 12. Spacecraft completes initial orbital pass as Iguan, Florida. Station acquires vehicle and tracking radar and continues monitoring before handing craft over to Cape Canaveral Complex for start of second orbit. B. Second orbit. The Cape Canaveral Complex, including Grand Bahama Island and Grand Turk Islands, requires the spacecraft and continues tracking, telemetry, and voice communication. 2. In order, Bermuda Atlantic Ship Canary Islands, Kano, Jacobard, Indian Ocean Ship, Mujamuma, and Canton Island stations repeat acquisition and maintain tracking and or telemetry and voice contact with the orbiting spacecraft. On second pass, Colonel Island site at Hawaii makes contact via radar, voice, and telemetry facilities. 4. Point Garl site, California, next requires spacecraft on the second pass, tracks and maintains telemetry and voice contact before the orbiting vehicle passes into range of the Guatemala's Mexico site. 5. Next comes second orbit contact by U.S. station at White Sands, Corpus Christi, and the ATMTC before the spacecraft begins its final third orbit. C. Third orbit. 1. Cape Canaveral Complex acquires spacecraft, continues tracking and monitoring telemetry and voice contact. Okay, 2. Spacecraft passes to Bermuda range, then Atlantic Ship Facility. 3. Indian Ocean ship makes next contact on third orbit before spacecraft is acquired by Australian site at Muchi. Alright, 4. Muchi make contact, the assures the craft retrofire clock is properly set to fire Renegade rockets at a point that will enable the spacecraft to return to Earth in the predetermined impact area. Note, Cape Canaveral, Bermuda, Hawaii Islands, Point Alger, and Guamalas, Mexico are also command sites with the capability of setting the retrofire clock. On a recent single-orbit mission, this control command responsibility was assigned to the Guatemala station. 5. On the 3-orbit mission, Coral Island site acquires spacecraft, maintains other functions, and checks retrofire clock for possible change if Mercury Control Center so advises. 6. As spacecraft is acquired by Point Argyle Station, descent starts over Pacific. The station also gives backup command to the spacecraft after the clock inflates retrofire. Spacecraft then assumes re-entry altitude. Okay, after braking rockets are fired, the retro package is detonated. 7. The following station is ordered to acquire spacecraft on the final phase of the third orbit. Observe re-entry and continue tracking and or telemetry and voice contact. Guatemala's White Sands, Corpus Christi, England, ATMTC. D. Re-entry and recovery. Spacecraft will be subject to about 8G upon re-entry. Space reduction occurs between 46 miles and 12 miles altitude covering a slant distance of 460 miles, and the spacecraft slows from 17,500 miles per hour down to 1,350 miles per hour in slightly over 3 minutes. And 3, at about 21,000 feet, a 6-foot diameter drogue parachute will be deployed to stabilize the craft. At about 10,000 feet, the antenna varying above the spacecraft cylinder section will be jettisoned to deploy the 6.62-foot ring stall type main landing parachute. Impact takes place on the Atlantic Ocean off Puerto Rico. Upon impact, the main parachute will be jettisoned along with a special block of balsa wood for parachute flotation to provide for recovery and prevent dragging. Dive marker sped on the water. 6. Spacecraft system signals trained specialists to recovery of the vehicle and occupant. Helicopters will help make the ocean pick up. There's a fact sheet there. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, it's amazing. This really is what we went through. This is launch operation directory. It's a fact sheet. You see that? Fact sheet. Centaur. This is one. The Centaur space vehicle system has been developed under the direction of the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, designed to open the entire solar system to research. The Centaur is the nation's first high-energy space vehicle. The importance of the Centaur to NASA is even more far-reaching than the capability of the vehicle itself. The Centaur is intended to be used as a final stage of the massive Saturn. Also, a different arrangement of the same type of engine used in Centaur is planned to power Saturn's second stage. A further use of Centaur is manned space missions is under study by NASA. 2. Description. The two-story vehicle consists of a modified Atlas first stage topped by a 42-foot high energy stage weighing 32,000 pounds. The high energy stage will be the first to burn liquid hydrogen as a fuel. It will be capable of placing a 4.5-ton payload into a low satellite orbit and of sending large instrumented probes deep into space. The second Centaur stage is powered by 2 liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen rocket engines of 15,000 pounds of thrust each. 10 smaller rockets, 4 of which are Usage rockets and 6 are Vernes, are used for stabilization and altitude control respectively. Centaur's first stage is powered by 3 main rocket engines developing 360,000 pounds of thrust. 2 small Werner rockets with 1,000 pounds of thrust each provide roll control and trimming at the end of the first stage propulsion period. The combined Centaur vehicle is 10 feet in diameter and 107 feet 8 inches in length. Both stages are built on thin gauge, lightweight stainless steel. Each is free of internal framework and is pressurized to maintain its shape. History. The Centaur vehicle evolved from studies of strategic high-altitude satellites for early warning, global surveillance, communication, and weather reconnaissance work. With the realization that such satellites would require a high-energy upper stage, the hydrogen-oxygen combination was selected. Advanced studies in 1958 led to the proposal to develop a hydrogen-oxygen engine. The liquid hydrogen pump was designed, which made possible the abandonment of the pressure bed propulsion system. These studies resulted in the utilization of the pump-fed twin-engine hydrogen-oxygen stage concept. 4. Liquid hydrogen. Because liquid hydrogen offers a maximum amount of energy per pound, it becomes possible to lift with a two-stage vehicle. Payloads which would require 3 or 4 stages using other fuels. It is estimated that the Centaur liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen LOX engine will produce a specific impulse amount of thrust per pound of propellant during each second of each operation, 30% greater than rocket engines that burn kerosene LOX type fuels. The slow development of the hydrogen-oxygen engine was due to the lack of technical capability in the field of cryonics to handle liquid hydrogen. Severe problems existed in designing of pumping and storing equipment for this extremely low temperature liquid minus 423 degrees Fahrenheit. 5. Engine performance. Efficient performance of the engine is dependent on the propellants being received by the propellant pumps at precise pressure. This is accomplished by special boost pumps. In this pump-fed system, the initial high propellant tank pressurizes designed to force the propellants into the main fuel, and oxidizer pumps it is avoided. The hydrogen reaches the main fuel pump as a liquid, then flows through a cooling jacket which surrounds the combustion chamber. This process cools the engine and simultaneously heats the hydrogen. The hot hydrogen, the temperature of which is still more than 100 degrees below zero, operates a turbine which in turn drives the fuel and oxidizer pumps. These pumps force the hydrogen and oxygen into the combustion chamber. 6. Guidance. The Centaur's second stage is controlled in flight by an internal, self-contained guidance system using a general-purpose type digital computer. The computer receives information on the vehicle's position and velocity, compares the information against previous stored information, and if necessary, initiates corrective action to bring the vehicle back to the desired flight path. The 7. Flight sequence. In a typical flight operation, the 3 Centaur first stage engines and 2 Veerners are all lighted before launch. After 2.4 minutes of flight, the booster section with 2 of the main engine is jettisoned. Thrust is then provided solely by the remaining sustainer engine. All sustainer cut off, the vehicle is traveling at approximately 10,000 miles per hour. The upper stage is unlatched and driven away from the first stage by the 4 useless rockets, while small retro rockets mounted on the first stage aid in the separation and prevent the first stage from bumping the second stage. Moments later, the second stage engines ignite. Most missions will require the Centaur engine to stop at a predetermined time to allow for a coast period. Thus, the vehicle can wait until its target is in the most adventurous position before the engines restart to continue the flight. A satellite launched eastward to the altitude of 22,000 miles above the equator would take 24 hours to orbit the Earth. Since the satellite and the Earth revolve about the Earth's axis at the same angular velocity, the satellite would appear stationary above the same spot on Earth. This feature of parking the satellite above a given spot above the equator can be attained with 2 restarts of the Centaur engine. The parked satellite provides a field of enormous promise, and the media potential is in the area of worldwide communication system. That's pretty good right there. You can write to me if you want to, Miss Lerno Sr., 301 Harvey Valley Road, Toccoa, Georgia, 30577. Write me today. Tell me what's on your mind. I'm going to tell you what's on mine, okay? Lisa's grandbaby law. Go back and look at all the videos. Look at them again. Look up brain dead. Brain dead. You're not dead until you're dead, okay? That brain dead just give them an excuse to steal your organs, okay? Vote Lisa's grandbaby law, and let's stop them from murdering and killing anybody else and taking their organs. A beautiful hospital, paid by people's organs. That's how they believe it.